So I've been pretty pleased with what I've heard in the weight and strength and conditioning program the last few weeks. And our guys are doing a lot of testing. I haven't seen the results of their testing on certain lifts and exercises, but I'll see them by the end of the week. But our strength coaches feel that most of the objectives that they wanted have been accomplished. And now the coaches are getting ready for practice starting Saturday.
How's the message different from year one to year two?
Well, I think every team is different. I don't think the program changes, but the team changes from a personality standpoint. I've said many times I thought we had really good senior leadership last year, and so I'm waiting to see how that develops this year. I think a lot of the guys that were here with us understand how we're supposed to work and how we approach things. But as I told the team the other day, we expect anywhere from 35 to 40 new guys to be on the team this fall. So it's going to be competitive just to have a roster spot, and we want it that way.
Do you feel more comfortable this time around, this spring?
Well, I thought, it was funny. I felt really comfortable last spring as far as the surroundings and the environment and what we were putting in. The biggest difference is we know our guys. We know what we have, what we need to work on, and what we got to do in spring practice. Last spring I thought it was important. You always teach fundamentals and all that, but I thought it was, you got to teach your schemes too, because it's the first time they're introduced to it. This spring will be a lot more about fundamentals than it is about schemes. We'll have some practices where we don't even do a single team period at all. It won't be any 11 on 11. It will be some 7 on 7 stuff and some inside stuff and a lot of individual. But there'll be many practices, one because of numbers and two because of what we want to focus on. And it'll be, I guess, boring to the outsiders, not to me, but we won't have any team periods on some practices.
How much of an advantage is it for the two quarterbacks or more that are here now as opposed to a guy like Ani who's coming in?
Well, I think that the spring is important, but it's only 15 practices. I think in the days where you had 20 practices and all of them had full pads, I think it's a little more valuable. And plus your players went around in the summer. Nowadays, the high school kids can come in the summer and work out and train with the whole team, and they teach each other a lot, I think, in the summer. So, it puts you're a little bit ahead as a quarterback or any position if you're here in the spring, but not so far ahead where a guy can't come in and win the job.
You mentioned Kadeem had some work to do. How is he progressing, and will he be with you in the spring?
But good, yeah. He'll be with us, and his process of making sure that he shows the true person that he is still ongoing. But he's been good. But we've got close tabs on him. He knows that. He knows he made a mistake, and that he's got to prove to what kind of person he is. But there's other guys too on the team that are doing that as well.
What's the status of the guys you sent home from the bowl game?
They're back working out.
Here for the spring, ready to go?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you reflect at all on the season that was, or is that completely behind you?
Oh yeah, you look back. But I reflect back. Maybe not as much as learn from. Whether it was schemes or methods or ways. I think it's as important as a coach that you always look back at a good and a bad and see what you did well, see what you did poorly, and what you got to do to get better at. I think there was a lot of positives, but there was a lot of things that weren't so positive that we were studying. And normally, once recruiting is over, sign day is over, you take a month to do that. We don't quite have a month, but our coaches have been working and looking at last year's film. We'll continue to do that throughout the spring and in the summer as well.
How's the overall health of the team, you guys sitting out?
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them. I don't know if y'all got the list. Did Molly give y'all a list?
Yes. Yeah.
There's like a dozen guys that won't be going through full spring practice. They can do, some of the guys that, had a lot of guys that had shoulder surgery that they'll be doing some limited things, things that they're running drills and all that, but they won't do anything with full pads. And I don't know if I've ever had at least a dozen guys out. That's a lot. So that's another reason we won't be doing a lot of team periods. But thankfully, all of them, the surgeries that they had were successful, we think, and they'll work hard and it should be good to go in August.
Realistically, what do you hope to learn from the quarterbacks after spring?
Well, I want to try to find guys. I've always said this, it's not so much about finding a starter or starters at any position. It's finding guys that we think we can win with, whether there's hopefully more than one, but we hope to find 2 or 3 at every position. I don't know if we'll be there yet. It may take us a couple of years in recruiting and development to get to that point, but we want to find in a quarterback position like every other, 2 or 3 guys that we feel we can win with. that's a question right now. We don't know that, and I don't know if we'll have that answer after spring either. But we do have some guys I'm looking forward to working with, and again, the competition gets enhanced in August.
As you chart everything with the quarterbacks in the spring, what really needs to stand out? What's some top priority?
You know, we'll chart some things. I think Coach Smith charts a few things, but I don't go back and look at the stats because it's relative. I mean, a guy could be working against a third group or against freshmen, and his stats are better. I think you just know. I mean, I've been doing this long enough. I just know whether a guy is progressing well enough that we feel good that he can win with. I mean, B.J. Denker's proven himself a little bit. He's already played some, but he's the only one, and he's got to get better. And I know he's working pretty hard. I'm anxious to see how much better he's gotten in the spring. And then we're not going to add anything. We're not adding any wrinkles or anything we want to experiment with in the spring. We just really want to work on fundamentals. I know it sounds like a typical coach talking to you about that, but I mean, for this spring, you know, we played a lot of guys last year before they were truly ready, and it's our job to try to get them more ready this spring.
Hiring of Matt Capone, what went into it, and what do you think?
Well, one, you know, Matt knew what we were doing system-wise. I mean, he's not like a guy that's never coached. I mean, he's been a full-time college coach and has had experience, and he's got a good personality. I think he'll be an outstanding recruiter, and he was on staff. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about Jim Mahalchek, you know, our new O-line coach. I think he'll do a great job. And then Charlie Ragle as well. So I really feel good about the staff. I feel good about our support staff. And then with the rule changes in August, I think your support staff is going to be even more important than they've ever been.
Are there a couple guys that redshirted last year that you're looking forward to seeing here in spring? And
yeah, there is. I don't know the whole list without looking through them, but there were, you know, I think we played about half the freshmen and redshirted the other half, and as I told all of them when I see them, the redshirt year's over. So now it's time for them to show that they can play and improve themselves. And I don't want our guys talking about it. I want our guys showing it. I mean, a strength coach put a neat little saying on the back of the workout shirts. It just says simply "shut up and work." And that's, you know, that's perfect in its simplicity. You know, that's what we want our guys to do, just shut up and work. And they've been working pretty hard. And I would expect over the next 34 days, starting on Saturday with spring practice, they'll work pretty hard again.
Is there more intensity on spring practice than there was, say, 10 years ago? Is it taken more seriously now?
You know, I think it was more intensity back then.
Really?
When I say 10 years ago, dating myself, maybe 15 years ago, when they had every practice was a full padded practice and you hit for 20 times, I think there was more intensity then. I think nowadays, you know, coaches, you know, there's only 7 days, I believe, that you can actually tackle in. So I think there's a lot less intensity in spring practice, and I think way too much is probably made out of spring. I mean, I know everybody here would like to get a depth chart after spring. I don't think I can give you one. I can give you a list of guys that are competing at every spot, but we won't have a depth chart after spring because we're going to have a dozen guys that don't participate, not counting a few guys that maybe get banged up, and then, like I said, 30 new guys coming in the fall, counting the walk-ons. So our depth chart won't be determined until 2 weeks into camp in the fall.
With those guys that did redshirt, how much of it is still about evaluation since you didn't see them perform on the field?
Well, I got to see them in practice, so we evaluated them. But again, the guys are, you know, when you get 18 or 19 years old, a lot of guys will make a big spike in their development in a year or two, and particularly in your first year when they're still growing. They're still growing young men, and if they did their job in the weight room, which I think they did, you can see it in when practices start. Now, will there be anybody that surprises us and jumps out? I hope so, but I do think they're going to be, you know, we'll be more competitive at certain spots. We have to be. I mean, we were so razor thin last year; it was crazy. And we still will be thinner than I want to be, but we'll have more competition at more positions than we did a year ago.
Who do you rotate in at center?
I had no idea. I mean, see who's at center. Let me look at the list. Everybody that's on the offensive line is taking reps snapping. So Jacob Arzeman's a little bit banged up, but he'll go in there. Bo Boyster will be in there. Chris Putton will be in there. We've taken Mickey Bacchus is doing snaps. I think Spurgeon's doing snaps. Let me see who else. Just about anybody has been taking some snaps at center. And again, we've got Stephen Garola coming in, a junior college guy in the fall. That's why I'm not concerned about finding a starter, but I do hope we can find 7 or 8 linemen that we feel that can play multiple positions and be comfortable with.
Is there a position group or two that you feel really good about going in that you think is really strong, maybe better than the rest?
Nah, not really. I think defensively we need to get depth at all positions, and that we'll have to wait till the class comes in the fall to do that. I think we probably have more experience at wide receiver than other positions, so that's probably the position that we're most comfortable at now, as far as having guys that we know can play and having a pretty good rotation of groups there. Running back, we've got a few guys that have played, but I would say receivers probably our deepest group right now.
You find that in terms of defensive scheme that the learning curve is a year, is it shorter, longer than that?
Well, I think it used to be the other way around. People takes longer for the offense to develop, but the way offenses are nowadays, and from week to week, it changes from playing a team with 2 tights and 2 backs to a team that's 4 wide. I think it's harder defensively to learn the ins and outs than it is on the other side of the ball. So that'll be important. Coach Castile and the staff have a plan as far as not just teaching the fundamental part, but teaching some inner workings of our defense and keeping it really simple. We'll be really, really simple this spring, even though some guys, all the guys are back, just so they can know the whys, not just the wheres and how we're doing it.
You refreshed? You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, we played in the first bowl game, so we had a lot of time off. It was good that we won, because then I was able to watch the other ones with a half decent attitude. I've been miserable. I've been miserable around Christmas time and January 1st if we lost that one. So that was good. And recruiting is. Everybody says recruiting was over a couple weeks ago, but let's face it, recruiting is never over. I mean, we do something recruiting 2 or 3 hours every day, whether it's evaluating or emailing or preparing and recruiting for for unofficial visits. So, the recruiting is nonstop. That's the biggest change. I mean, it's something that occupies a great deal of our time. But I'm excited with a couple additions on the staff. I'm excited for the coaches and I'm excited just to be out with the players. Now, starting on Saturday, we get to work with them 20 hours a week and get out here in this beautiful weather. So I feel good about that.
Scroggins is ready to go?
No, Scroggins had foot surgery, which was something he probably needed to get fixed earlier in his career. And we had a choice. We could maybe try to play with it, but I'd rather have everybody 100% in August than have a question mark thinking, if he tweaks it or something, and maybe banged up. So he'll be very limited this spring. We don't know sure what he can do. He won't be in any full contact practices, but he'll at least be able to sit in those meetings and learn schematically what we want to do.
What do you think, Allen, Nick Isham, what do you know of their strengths right now? What do you think they can bring?
JaVale had to get in shape. I mean, he's a guy that's got some talent, and I caught him chubby enough times that I think he took it to heart, and he's worked pretty hard from what I've seen. He's in pretty good shape, but I'm anxious to see what he could do on the field. And Nick Isham, obviously sat out, and he's got a little bit of experience, and he's a smart guy. BJ as well. So then we're going to give him a lot of reps. It's hard to give as many reps as you want, because when you have 2 or 3 guys in position, it's easy. It seems like we got 4 or 5 there, and I'm still collecting quarterbacks. So what chance or opportunities they get, they got to make the most of it. And I've talked to them about that already. But I'm sure they're anxious to see what they can do, and we'll be able to evaluate enough in the fundamental and the individual part and the 7-on-7 part that even with our limited team periods, I think we'll get a good idea who's ready.
How is spring practice different when you don't have a Matt Scott or a Pat White and a number 1 guy, and you have a little bit of competition?
Well, it's when Matt obviously was established, and Pat wasn't established till after he started 1 year, so you're still proving themselves. But guys like Matt and Pat were so competitive by nature that it didn't matter whether they had true competition on the team or not. They were competing with themselves and all that. And that's kind of an environment we want to have with all of our guys. We're trying to recruit that, but we also want to foster that. We want our practices to be very, very competitive. And spring practices, you could do that a little bit more because you're not preparing for the game. Let's face it, if I don't win a spring game, we're going to have a long year, right? So, it'll be geared so everybody's happy after the spring game, including myself. But we want to foster as much competitiveness within the fundamental teaching as we can this spring.
How do you plan on splitting up the special teams coaching duties?
Well, Charlie Rago is going to be the one sole special teams coordinator, and he's taken, I think, a lot of pride in that. And then what we'll do is we'll do it like we did last year. We'll have Charlie will kind of overlook it all along with me, and then we'll have a coach probably take a unit like a punt team and a punt block team and do all that. Again, this spring will be limited in that simply because the lack of numbers. But we'll work again. One thing we didn't do a lot of in the fall, which we probably should have and need to, is work some of the fundamental things for the special teams. A lot of coaches, and I know I've done. You get worried about your scheme and all that, but you don't teach the fundamental part of your punt team or your kickoff team the way you really need to. And so we want to do that this spring.